Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our normal meeting. Good to see everybody. For those, I'm David Lough, president of DSCA. I don't know if we have anybody new. I was expecting a couple commissioners. I don't know if they're on the line. Today, we are not having a speaker, but we are going to utilize that time for discussion about meeting format, meeting structures, that kind of thing. So we used to stick to our hour and a half, but allow time for that. Starting off with declare a quorum, I think we have absolutely everybody. So quorum declared. As far as minutes of the board meeting for the 5th, we circulated that. A lot of that was meeting notes, but at the bottom was a very brief board meeting. Were there any comments or edits to that? If not, is there a motion to adopt those?
So moved.
So moved by Jamie, second by Ken. All in favor? I think. Okay, thanks, everybody. Treasurer's report. Clark, how are we doing on the money front?
Oh, we have just tons. The Seacoast checking account is now $4,648.76. That's after paying Parsons Marketing $41.99.25 or $4,200. Our D&O insurance $1,651 and the garden club for our October meeting of $1,250.
Okay. Good. Any questions about that? Anybody? Moving along.
The D&O insurance, is that new?
No, we have it every year. That's a,
Oh,
yeah, and the premium has stayed.
that's
Same.
good. So we're all protected.
Yes.
Yeah, we hope.
It's smart to do that. Yeah.
Still, Patrick, Peter, still behaviors. I'm teasing. So, good. Okay, the thing I wanted to move into, I think, Patrick G, is we wanted to talk a little bit about the survey that we conducted amongst members a month or so ago. And I don't know, do we have yeah.
In the packet?
Yeah.
Is it?
Okay, let's start with this one. This was the Likert scale answer to these 4 questions. DSCA effectively represents interest and concerns of downtown residents, 4.1 out of 5. DSCA keeps me well informed about important issues affecting downtown, 4.3. Advocate for policies and initiatives that improve quality of life for downtown residents, 4.2. And DSCA provides meaningful opportunities for residents to share input and get involved, 3.9. So it looks like on a pretty limited sample, we did okay, but there's a but. There was a place for write-ins, and this would, that's the,
I got this.
Okay.
Is it after this? It's everything in the packet.
It's not in the packet.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
okay.
You sent it to me otherwise? I don't think so.
Sorry, I thought I did. Okay. Jamie, some of the write-ins, there were some, if we saw one theme, it might be the area of legislation and condo related laws and that is a area, and I know Ruth has commented on that, Bob, and I got together with Alex, and let's talk a little bit about that whatever DSCA is doing on a number of fronts, zoning, noise or quality of life. What did you mean?
It's okay, that's great and that's good and it's important. However, they felt that we could be doing more in terms of educating the rest of the condo associations on important legislation affairs. So that's something we're going to discuss a little bit further in the board meeting. The other one that was an overwhelming theme was development. But as far as legislation, I think that's where the rest of this conversation is going to happen a little bit later on in the board meeting. But that was really an overwhelming, that and development seemed to be the two things that kept being repeated over and over and over.
Development, you mean anti-development?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
In terms of the comments from the member survey, the topics included, yes, you said development, transportation, walkers, people walking, the pedestrian experience, which goes into some of the development side of that. But also there were several comments about insurance, HOA insurance. So the impact on our condo board management in terms of what's happening, because so much is changing in that market and what's affecting that and what can boards do to mitigate the changes, whether it be legislative or whether it be from the insurance side, banking side, et cetera. And those are topics we've discussed in the past, but it seems like that's an ongoing thing. And so that's
so I think the punchline is let's listen to what people are saying that we're doing okay. We can always do better, but add a dynamic to our mission, if you will, to try and provide some more relevant information. Thankfully, Alex is here, and Alex and Bob Firth and I met and discussed this. And the good news is that Alex has kind of raised his hand if we decide to go ahead with this, and Bob and Ruth, I believe, as a committee to kind of look at this. Aside, and a little sidebar here, we did have a discussion of, for a committee to exist, it needs at least 3 people. And we want, whatever the committee is, to have 3. We came up with a guideline of 1 board member at least on the committee, and at least 2 other people, at least, not 3 in total, but a minimum of 3 to make it a relevant group, if that sounds reasonable to you. So that's a sidebar. Some of the goals of this new committee is increase member condo representatives. Now, I think we would agree that while we've got some folks on Zoom, our attendance at these meetings is on the modest side. And the intent with this new arrow in our quiver is to make our meetings content richer, if you will, and again, add another dynamic to what we do. So that's what we're talking about. And Alex, would you put it together a little PowerPoint? Okay. And can you talk us through?
There you go.
Yeah. This,
Interrupt just for the notes, Alex, your last name.
I'm going to introduce myself.
Okay.
okay. And this draft is a result of a meeting between Bob, Alex, and me for discussion today. So looking for feedback on this. So take it away.
Great, thank you. So my name is Alex Niehaus, spelled Niehaus, mispronounced the way it's spelled. Those of you who don't know me, I live in Sarasota 2 over on 4th Street.
Excuse me, I couldn't get it.
Mike,
Can you hear me better now?
No, that's really more for Zoom than it is for.
Oh, all right. So I should project a little more. Sorry about that. So my name is Alex Niehaus. You get the spelling?
I got it.
Good. I live on 4th Street in Sarasota 2, you know, the last condo in the Rosemary District, right? When you hear the Rosemary District talking about parking problems, they don't think we're in the place, but we've got Restaurant Row near us. So thank you for this opportunity. So it's only 3 slides, by the way. So, and this is the one of them. This is one of them. So could someone advance to the next one? Thank you, sir. I want to put the condo back in downtown Sarasota, Condo Association. And so I don't mean to sound critical, but I think that there's a white space, as we call it in my work, between what you guys have been focused on and what your clients, that is board members, are interested in. And those of you who are on board, how many are on their condo boards here? Ruth, raise your hand. She's been, you know, in consumer packaged product testing, they always have a person in mind. I try and do that for my clients too, and I'm suggesting that DSCA take that approach here too. You have to know who you're selling to. And really, in any kind of business, you want to know who pays your bills. Who pays our bills? Membership is from a board. So that's why we're the Downtown Sarasota Condo Association. And that's why we should be serving the needs of board members very directly. And I think there's a white space. You know, all the other stuff we're doing is fantastic. I'm so bought in, I can't tell you. So this is additive, not a replacement for. And so you heard about the discussions that we've had with Bob, and frankly, I've been beating poor David over the head about this for months, really ever since the annual meeting. And I think we should stand up a committee that has 4 big objectives. And these are directly from your president. This is his term. We need to monitor legislative and regulatory proposals, assess the impact, and engage with our local representatives. I'll talk more about that. And then become the trusted source to the membership. And I think this has a lot of follow-on effects. Let's go to the next slide, please. I don't have to tell you, anybody who's involved in running a condo board, that it is a big job in Florida. Every attorney I talk to starts with, Florida has the most complicated condo laws in the country. And it's true. It's a burden, if any of you have done it. And I know Ruth, she's nodding her head, right? So the reality is it's a big job. And who does these big jobs? Volunteers who may or may not have the business, financial, managerial, organizational, accounting, vendor management skills to manage what are medium-sized to large businesses. Your survey, I took a look at it the other day. Bob was kind enough to give me a copy. Many of their members have budgets of $1.5 million and up. Say again? 2.3, thank you. These are not, they're not gigantic businesses, but they're not small businesses. And you have volunteers who are managing people's homes in a complex regulatory environment that gets more complicated. This bullet, I wrote these charts on April 19th, as you can tell. By May 7th, the legislature had passed a major new bill. It's enrolled, meaning that it's on its way to the governor's desk, that changes everything this year. After 2 years of changing everything. Everyone knows about the Surfside catastrophe, right? So what was the legislative response? Well, that's an example of mismanagement, isn't it? Fundamentally, they knew. They had engineering reports. They had all kinds of data to prove that their building was going to fall down. And they knew it. and they ignored it. So what is the legislative response? The legislative response, with which I think we can all agree in the name of public safety, is legislate structural integrity reserve studies, legislate milestone inspections, legislate reserves, very rigid reserves with very rigid accounting rules, and then change it in 2024, and then change it again in 2025. You catching my drift? There's a need, a real need, to move for us as the Downtown Sarasota Condo Association to serve the needs of the boards in this area. Next slide, please. So you've already heard from David how this would work. 3 members, 2 from DSCA membership. That's me and Ruth, and 1 from the board, Bob, who has been drafted against his will and has kindly agreed to suffer with us. The first task.
Is there an attorney on this board or?
No, I don't want one. I'm sorry, sir, if you're a JD, but no. No.
Excuse me. If we have a condo member who happens to be an attorney, you're saying you cannot serve on this?
No, I'm being facetious.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, I'm being facetious.
That's what I thought.
If you want to sign up, the membership is 3 at the moment. We're full until Bob can't take me anymore. We could have more?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, good. Okay, good. Well, I'm glad people want to break the doors down. That would be helpful. Our first task. So there's a legislature, right? The legislature just did this thing, which I've been following since bills were introduced in February. And the legislative cycle is over. And HB 913, you're going to be reading about it. And it's going to make a lot of change. And meanwhile, all of the service providers in Sarasota are going to be sending out lunch and learn emails, which are thinly veiled marketing approaches, where they're going to give you some information. Hopefully you'll buy the service from them. I have no problem with that. I really don't. But I think we shouldn't have abdicated that role. I think we should be the authoritative source.
Did SB 1742 get nixed, and what was it?
Good question. SB 1742 was the Senate version of the bill.
I see.
And it was, it had what I think would be a poison pill for Ruth's board, in that, get this, it actually said that board members could only attend electronically twice a year. I don't think that survived. I really don't. It didn't, but it was in 1742. So it's easy to follow this stuff, but I think we don't want to be followers. We want to be involved. And we want to be the voice of downtown Sarasota condo buildings for our representatives. So the first thing I want to do is engage with Representative McFarland. I've been talking to Commissioner Ahern Koch, who had planned to be here about this, and she's supportive and might actually be the person who introduces this committee. I'm sure McFarland will take a meeting with us. I hope Gruters will take a meeting with us. And I think what we need to begin to do is sensitize the legislative delegation to the issues. That there are a lot more than what I've just articulated here, but sensitize the legislative delegation to the issues. Am I running over?
Yeah, I'd like to.
Can I just finish?
Of course.
Thank you. So we have legislative changes. We need to get those out. We have a legislative cycle that we need to engage in. And I think there's a big opportunity for this committee, and therefore DSCA, to become the voice in this area for Sarasota, frankly, since the downtown condos are so representative of the bulk of the need, and also deliver more values to our associate members. Right? Instead of them having to generate the audience, we'll generate the audience. I think it's the proper role. So that's the proposal in a nutshell. I think that's the last slide, isn't it, sir?
Yes.
Okay, so let me just say a couple words. This idea came out of a couple things coming together, or 2 or 3 things coming together. the survey results, number one, the want and need to get more member participation, the legislation having worked its way through the system recently, and Alex stepping forward. So it was really a mixture of these four things that came together. My reaction to this is, one, trying to be sensitive what people are saying about us, but also I am frankly sensitive about mission creep and hours a day. And this is where I think I would like a little bit of discussion. I think the work of this group would be, they would have to be something that frankly isn't my forte. So I would really kind of delegate will to this committee to do their thing. And carefully define expectations and scope. So with that kind of said, Clark, you had a comment or question?
Yeah, I had a question about, can you define for us how we walk the line between making legal, this understanding, interpretations of things and the board? Which
In
doesn't
the
have-
outreach to legislators or to
Well,
the
condo
membership?
boards, how do we, I mean, from what I understand that you're saying is we're gonna be talking about the legislation, and yet we can't really offer legal advice on what it means. So
So-
how do we,
Well, we can have a caveat. So, like every other state.
so we can offer legal.
Well, no,
just
no,
cover-
this
no,
is what
say
we're
we're
hearing,
not offering
but
legal
seek
advice.
your own counsel, legal,
Yeah.
tax counsel, things matter.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we have to couch it appropriately, that's a good point.
So
It's
I-
no different, but it's, the thing is, it's no different than what we're doing with the city, for instance, or the county commissioners. It's just, I guess you could say, taking it to a next level, getting the state representatives more involved because they're controlling so much of condos. But I think also part of it is that if we can get the more participation from the board members of our member buildings involved more with DSCA too, it multiplies that out where they have a forum to be able to talk about the different things that are relevant to the management of buildings, because that's something that really isn't as covered as it could be. And I think that's an aspect that ties into this,
So it's a good question. And I think of this like the Greek god Janus, facing in two directions, right? So on the legislative side, we're a funnel up from the needs of the boards to legislators, trying to get our voice. And I've been told, and I think it's, legislators, they have the whole world of issues to deal with. And they're looking for consolidated, authoritative input. And that's what I think we should be doing on that. On the outside, I think it's much more basic than that. How many board members would sign up to hear one of our associate accountants, who is a professional, teach you how to read a balance sheet? Or, an attorney, what are trap doors in vendor contracts? Or, it's endless. It's educational primarily. Because running a board, my assertion to you is running a board is like running a business. I think that separating, and if I were an associate member of DSCA, I would want access to that kind of educational material, or, the panel that produces that, in order to make sure that it had authenticity. Because we're not going to give out advice.
Yeah, Jimmy.
Kathy Sellers texted me. She's trying to raise her hand. I don't know how to.
Well, let's get our protocol is board members
I'm sorry.
first. Judy, what do you think?
So I gather the actual activities of this committee, and
the actual activities of this committee and other volunteers they might recruit would be to do things like digitally watch legislative sessions and meetings of the legislative? Would it be monitor what comes out in print? I mean, what is it they're supposed to be watching for, coming from what sources? And I gather the other aspect would be to establish connection with our own local representatives that we send up to state legislature and try to form a relationship that gives us some kind of influence over those people and be in a position to carry back to our constituency their perceptions, et cetera. I'm just wanting to know exactly what activities would these people working on this do?
Yes, all of them. So let me give you a for instance. So you can follow legislation. I think I ruined Ruth's life by sending her these links. You can follow the status of any bill in the legislature very easily. And so that's what I've done. I've set up a search and it notifies me every day of changes, and you can watch things happen, right? Which is how I've learned the difference between an engrossed and an enrolled bill, or what a committee substitute is. I mean, there's a process, right? Our laws are made by a process, right? Let me answer the second part of the question, please. The second part of your question was being the input, that comes from the survey. It comes from condo board members, right? I mean, I think we have a pretty good handle on what it is we are concerned about, right? And that becoming the trusted source for that legislature who may not have any visibility otherwise is the right thing. It is something is a service we can provide to the membership.
Okay, my question is, Peter Fanning, Patrick, Ken, you folks that have been around the board for a long time, I'm interested in your reaction with regard to, are we getting too far into something that dilutes our other work, or do you visualize a niche, a role, or something like this properly defined in our committee structure?
I like it. I like the idea, and it makes a lot of sense to me that we're here for a reason. We're representing other people, and they need to have, need to have a connection with them, and they need to know what we're doing, and they need to know why we're doing it, and they need to know about what is affecting our role. So I like it. I think it's actually a very good idea. In fact, I'm working on something similar with the Arts and Cultural Alliance of Sarasota County Board.
Okay.
It's a copyrighted idea, sorry.
You
have to send me a royalty.
We have the same problem on that board.
Okay, Peter, Patrick, any particular, oh yeah.
Just as a quick follow-up. I appreciate the passion behind this. I don't discount that this is a needed area of study and influence. What I would like to understand better is, one, the open, just by putting it out here, we'll say we have a new committee, and the invitation to participate. Because I appreciate it's good to have a core of, to keep things moving. But if this is going to be any kind of voice of DSCA, we need way more than 3 people involved in the intake side of it. Is a key part of that. We've had a lot of input over the last, for a number of years from associate members on legislative issues. I would like to see an associate member involved in this committee. We've had inputs from not only, one class of the associate members is our condo community association managers for service, castle, et cetera, et cetera. They have they're the people, they're staff that we hire. Our condos, when you said our condo boards manage the people, no. Condo boards do not manage or supervise what goes on. We have policies and oversight. And we have to understand, sitting on a board, what the LCAMs are responsible for, and we have responsibility. But there needs to be an understanding that as a board member, you're not dictating, your board president, but beyond that, the staff people. So it's a question of how much involvement. For this committee, what I would like to see then is also, if we're getting into some issues that relate to educating board members, irrespective of what's coming down from legislation, in terms of how to be on a board and budgets and things like that. I think that's a need too. I know Judy and I have talked through and tried to have a member rep training session to try and provide training and things like that. So that's, whether that's part of the charter of this committee or something else, I think needs to be looked at. So involving more people in it. The second, if you would talk to your timing, you had in there to engage. You mentioned State Representative McFarland, as well as gathering information for voice. So what is the timing as to when you got the info together and meeting with?
Wow. I think I heard 3 questions. Expand the membership, timing, and education. Did I get that right?
Yeah. Sure, yeah.
Okay. So timing, up to you guys. I think the summer is a good time to engage the legislative aspect of this because they're done, or they will be once they pass a budget, if they ever get a budget done. I want to think more about the idea of having associate members there. I think mixing with respect to our associate members who may be here or listening, I think mixing the core mission of something like this with commercial interests is worth further thinking, because I want authoritative voices. Now, the CAMs are an interesting thing. By the way, I would tell you that in my condo, because there's only 22 units, we are incredibly hands-on. One of the reasons I'm talking so fast today is that we were all hands-on today. So, there's a spectrum, right? Here in Broadway Promenade, it's a much bigger operation. They have employees, and, you're self-managed.
We don't have.
And you're self-managed.
We are managed.
Yeah, you are managed.
We are the managed.
So board setting policies is not universal. Boards can be variously engaged.
My board is.
Okay, so,
If you would address the third question,
Yeah.
the timing
Go
of,
too over, you want to defer this, or should we let?
can we wrap this up in 5 minutes? And I know Kathy is.
the key question is, how can you speak to a official representative, or anybody else, without having gathered the input? And
I missed that.
Come forward.
So that one, I
from
think-
anybody that says, these are the consolidated issues that we wish to have taken forward. So
So
to me, it's a process that we haven't even begun to address.
I agree with that. That's correct. We have to get the,
I think that's part of what we.
that's part of what we do, but I think you have to establish pretty early on who you are. I don't want to get everything and then say, hi, here we are, right? So I think there's plenty to talk about. I mean, I would set up a meeting, the initial meeting with McFarland, if we get it, is very simple. What was how did 913 happen? Tell us about that.
This board has not discussed any of the issues in 913, so how can we have a board committee go off and discuss the issues in 913?
913 is a major set of updates to chapter 718.
So it's a separate issue from today's meeting.
Okay, so today, Kathy, I'll let you talk, but the goal is there something in this that we can flesh out further or additional conversation? Is it kind of make sense? And again, it's a confluence of things that kind of brought this together for us to consider. So the goal today was running up the flagpole. Anybody have any serious concerns, flesh out some of the details and bring it back. Kathy, did you have something quick on this?
She's got to unmute herself.
Yes,
Kathy?
Unmute.
Yes, I'm here.
Kathy,
Kathy,
we,
unmute your, there you go.
Yep, yes, I'm listening to this conversation, and I guess my one question, or I've got two actually. One of them would be, is this to inform or is it to shape policy or inform policy? And then also, how is this different from the Community Association Network group that does something very, very similar to what you were talking about?
So on this, I can't give you much of an answer. I'm not familiar with, but I like very much the idea of shaping, which goes to Patrick's about finding what they. And I think the immediate need is to establish ourselves.
okay. All right, let's, Kathy, let us get back to you separately on this. I don't think we need a motion or a consensus here to take this to the next stage there. Peter?
I mean, it sounds like you're willing to work hard, and I say, why
Yeah.
not?
This is going to be a lot of work, and you guys are ready, willing, and able. Please.
Oh, I'm willing.
Okay.
I don't know how.
Okay. All right. Peter, did you have a comment?
I'm kind of absorbed at a halt at the moment. Come up pretty quickly. And you've certainly done a good job answering some of my questions that I had before I got here after I read this afternoon. The second thing is I always make sure that the articles and the bylaws support this, and they do. In fact, appreciate the discussion because actually our czar here can appoint committees and dissolve them on his own. Doesn't really need us, but that's the decision.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Alex. Continuing on to what else we heard in the survey. And before.
Okay, go ahead. You were. No, go ahead. I'm sorry I paused at the wrong moment.
Oh, okay.
I would also like to say that because of the seriousness of this committee and that it needs to walk some tightropes that our existing committee don't need to walk on. I'm thinking that this has to come with an evaluation plan or a sunset provision, which includes an evaluation.
Okay. One thing is that we're talking about a new committee. One thing I didn't want to ignore or whatever is Judy's kind of repeated expression of a need for like Sarasota 101 training. In other words, how to acclimatize newcomers to the Sarasota culture. Now, I'm hesitant. I see that as a need, but if that is a want for us to do something, yes.
Okay. Please understand that my motivation has to do with the acknowledgement that when people come here from other places in the country, they have to, what we want to happen is for them to essentially give up their identity as being from, I don't know, East Cupcake, Illinois, and now they're part of Sarasota. The faster we can make that happen, the quicker they're going to become engaged and involved and perhaps want to participate in something like that, or perhaps be ready to be philanthropic here instead of back in Illinois. You follow me? It's like a whole mind evolution process. I've spoken about this at CCNA. Commissioner Debbie Trice sent me an email and asked that I could maybe speak with her and we could talk about how this could be done. My latest thinking now is this should be a video. There should be a video that people can go to on the city's website, and we could make a link to it from our website, And it's something that I think some of the local foundations might be interested in helping to support. And it would just begin with people speaking about, because people respond more to what they see and hear than what they can read on a page. I just know how learning happens. And I think the preparation of a video, especially once we get a new city manager who should be part of the speaker series, I just think the production of a quick 10-minute video with people saying, look, here's an overview of the cultural scene in Sarasota. Here's where you can go and learn about the history. Here's where this, that, and the other, take some creative people, put it together. They'll come up with something very entertaining, informative, and attractive. So that's just been my idea for a while. I'm not sure what role this
Yeah.
group could
Yeah, I
have.
was gonna say, because I think the budget for about 1 minute of a video would exceed what we have in the bank right now.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
We could
But
try,
I can talk to the Sarasota Foundation, we can talk to the Golf Course Foundation. I got a little fund with the foundation, I
Okay.
can throw some things in.
okay.
I just think it's.
Judy, I think we would agree it's a good idea. Are you raising your hand to,
I'm gonna start, when I get back in the fall, I'm gonna look into it,
Okay.
see what I can.
and I think the goal is admirable. I mean, it gets DSCA out there right in the beginning. These days with technology, maybe there's a limited budget, self-made kind of way with AI and all that kind of stuff to go about it. So I think unless there's any objections, let's continue to think about that.
So this is just generally informing people on what Sarasota's all about.
Yeah.
Okay?
Vic, on, can I make one point of associating or the legislation thing and so forth? Maybe my point is, I think the key is getting a little bit more involvement from the building reps and from the boards of the building reps to get more involved in DSCA. I think that's, that's I think a big part of what this can do with what Alex is talking about, of making it more involvement from getting more people. I mean, again, we have, 4 building reps here today? In the building, and we have how many buildings?
35.
So we're a little shy on getting a good representation of our buildings involved in our group. And the more that we can get people involved in answering questions, like when, I'm thinking about when you came in to our meeting, just getting elected to the board or the president of the Mark as an example, you have a zillion questions that you still have that we could help.
Okay.
Those other people answer those things, and
Yeah.
it takes those people to show up.
Yep.
And I've heard condos boards have a hard time even getting people to serve on the condo.
Yeah, that's where that legislation comes.
Yeah, Peter?
Yeah, since we're trying to get engagement with some of our condo members, is it possible to host these meetings at different condos? So I know our condo would probably do it, the Ritz-Carlton residents, I know Beso would probably do it, they have a lot of space. And that way you get the board, you get other residents more involved, is that a possibility?
It's a possibility, but Zoom would be a challenge if we want to do that. I mean, we could do it, but it's a matter of,
Depends on parking.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, one of the best things that did in the past was to get on the agenda for board meetings, to have a representative, be it the president or another board member of DSCA, to then speak and have half a dozen slides and so forth. And these are the things that we're doing this year, we're engaged in, and what are the other issues you have, and add that, so it's more outreach engagement.
Yeah.
Okay. But certainly that's an idea. Now,
I mean, if you show up, you're gonna get people more engaged, that's.
yeah, yeah. Now, one,
Yeah, we all have for most of us.
yeah. One other subtle change that we kicked around was when we have a guest speaker, that speaker tends to speak. I mean, we allocate 35 or 40 minutes to the speaker. One idea kicked around is reposition it from a guest speaker to a conversation with. So I throw that out there, a conversation with Marlon Brown, where we tell or ask the speaker to please only speak for 10 minutes or something, a shorter period of time. We allow added time for comments, questions, and so it's a more personal kind of interaction than maybe being talked at. So again, the idea is slightly repositioning things as a conversation with something more intimate, more personable, where members, for example, we open it up to members asking the questions earlier. And so we don't have to make a decision to do this forever. We could try it. And I'm looking for reactions to this kind of direction.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, Marlon Brown put us in
Yeah,
a speakerphone.
Maybe that's a,
When someone just reads off of
Yeah,
their
yeah,
slides for
yeah.
25 minutes, that's just
yeah,
not
and
very-
that was part of my weakness is cutting people off and what about this idea? The other, this is a two-part thing, that our speakers are meatier. So we have less light, no offense, urbanite or, some cultural things. If we're trying to be at the risk of being too businesslike, more substantive policymaking speakers, and we shy away a little bit from the lighter version of speaking. So this is a two-part question, this idea of conversation and directionally, criteria-wise for our speakers. How do you feel about that?
One thought was get the business meeting over and then have the speaker where there's more engagement. And then we can, open up the
Okay.
bar and continue the engagement, and it leads to, I think, more interaction.
Well, let me,
One way of doing it, especially for a speaker who's busy, say, hey, we're starting our business meeting before, you're on the agenda at 5.
yeah.
I
No,
agree
no,
with that.
no, but what we casually talked about is the flip of that. Start with the conversation with Joe Smith, move into committee reports, and then content-wise, and then convene the board meeting that has the minutes approval, the financial statement, and if any,
It won't.
mo-
But I think the problem with that a little bit is that you will get people, if you want people to hang around afterwards and interact, they're
Okay,
going
so
to disappear when you go into that.
okay, I
part
thought
of
this
the
is what we agreed the other day.
I
Okay,
thought we were
all right,
talking
so
about the-
every approach has a pros and cons. What we're looking for here, the intent, is more member engagement, more content, more personalization, and a better outcome for everybody. So,
if you're going to entertain the idea of hosting, changing the venues to the various larger conferences that can host this group, I think starting with the speaker is a better way than to drag into committee. No
Yeah.
disrespect to the committee members, but it's a little bit sausage making, and I think people, if they hear the police chief is coming or
I think if you say that this is when the speaker is going to speak at 5, and
Well-
then have the other meet of the, so
Okay.
have it sort of segmented.
Right, essentially, that's
fine.
So essentially, that's what we do now. I mean, we kick it off. I'm just saying, rather than call the board meeting to order, do the minutes approval, just bang, start with a conversation with Rex Trichet. But
I don't think you'll get anybody to hang out.
Bob, I'm saying,
Yeah.
there is no perfect, this is all a compromise. So what the intent here is is to shake up things a little bit for the sake of shaking things up.
I think
You
you
know?
gotta try several ways of doing
Yeah.
it to see what works.
Right.
Because we could sit around this damn table
Yeah.
and talk about what won't work.
Yeah.
Hour ad infinitum.
Yep.
So let's just try something. Let's come up with
Okay.
some ideas.
Oh.
Try it and see what works.
Yeah.
As long as it conforms with the bylaws.
No.
Invest condos can host a meeting with enough seating and the visual stuff, having gone through several different condo buildings and asked that question. Even our condo can't, because we also have limitations on holding outside meetings in our meeting rooms, et cetera, limitations. Sometimes we have restrictions about what kind of meetings can be held in there.
So what we're doing is changing the purpose. The purpose originally to have speakers was to educate the board. Undergraduate education. Now you're going to graduate education, where you're having a seminar, which is an interacting, because the board is already educated enough to have meaningful interactions.
Yeah.
So I don't know where that leaves the questioning for the membership, who probably aren't as informed about some of the things that this speaker will be speaking about as we are. So it'll work for the board. And I think we ought to try it and see how it works and how we can take that from the speaker and give it back to the membership as part of the last discussion we were having.
Okay.
Well, we can't hold political events with political speakers. But you're saying you can't have any outside groups come to Condo Bay? Right. Obviously, the Promenade doesn't have.
We have guest speakers. Hosting outside groups.
Yeah.
Broadway does, other condos do,
Yeah.
but they don't have the large enough room facilities.
Well, I guess we could just check around to see if it's even viable. And maybe
I think you can also think about setting up with the speaker in advance, something to help him or her shape the presentation. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, the instructions could be, when you come, we would like you to think about how does your organization interact with people who live in condominiums downtown. In other words, make them be specifically relevant to the audience in the room, as opposed to giving the usual, overall presentation. This is my group, this is what we do. This is my group, and as far as I can tell, the most relevant thing that we do for the people who belong to your association is this and this.
Yes, that's a good point. That we could have used that.
Tailor, have a specific kind of way of shaping up that presentation. Talking with them, of course, is an exchange, but seeing if they can get more to the point of what's relevant to the group in the room.
Okay, so we've got to move on, folks, but I think conceptually, there's kind of buy-in to the legislative affairs group of taking that to the next stage as another value-added element of DSCA to try and focus a bit more and a little bit powwow, even though it's subtle, a conversation with Chief of Police Touche as opposed to whatever. So let me work with Alex and Bob on these elements and come back, and as Ken says, maybe we test drive one agenda we change up. Maybe the good time to do that is in the summer, when if we make a mistake, not many people are watching. I'm kidding. But the whole goal here is more member representation, more targeted relevancy, and to build on the success or relative success DSCA's had to date. Just go to another stage, okay? All right. Okay, moving on to new members. We have Lynn, I don't know, you weren't recognized before, but Lynn Ernst from the Friendship.
Senior Friendship Center.
Yeah, and would you, I think we want a motion to accept, that's a protocol here, motion to accept the Friendship Center as a platinum member. Is there a motion to do that?
She does have an opportunity to speak.
Oh, right, right. So we wanted to welcome you. I think there's consensus. Would you like to say a few words about the Friendship Center and what you do? Come on up.
Okay, real quick, friendship meeting. Thank you, David. Senior Friendship Center has been, it was established many years ago. We have been in business for 52 years. Does anybody know that? Probably not. We're located at 1888 Brother Geenan Way, which is close to P.F. Chang's and where the old Waffle House where Elvis ate. We do a lot of, well, it works. People know where that's at. We do a lot of services for seniors. We have activities all day long from 8:30 to 4:30, and we're open Monday through Friday. And it's a place for people to come, take ballroom dancing, salsa, line dancing, balance movement, a lot of different exercises. And we also have a caregiver resource center. If you know someone, a loved one, and maybe you're seeing a change in their behavior, you can go in there for a meeting and they can guide you on the next steps of what to do if you think someone is having some memory issues. So we do that service. And we also have an adult day program where you can bring a loved one, a parent, or a friend to, so you can have some respite. I don't want to take up any more of your time, but thank you very much.
It says Friendship Centers. Are there multiple?
Yes, there are.
Oh.
Yes, we have one in DeSoto County, Arcadia. We have one in Venice on the intercoastal down there. And those are the three ones we have. But we have dining sites. We do feed seniors ages 16 above. If you live in Sarasota County, you can prove that. You can have a free lunch Monday through Friday at Senior Friendship Center. But guess what? What's really important, let's say you're a widow. Your wife did all the shopping. You don't know how to order, the special things that they can do, the Grubhub and all that kind of thing, DoorDash. You're sitting in your condo alone all day. You're extremely bored. You have no contact with anybody. And you find out, oh, well, maybe I'll go have lunch there one day. You might need a friend. And you might decide to take a class. That's the purpose of that. To isolation and loneliness is the worst thing that can happen. So that's the purpose of the meal. It may not be 5 stars, but you can have a conversation instead of sitting alone in your condo.
Are you funded by the county?
We do get some funding.
So you're nonprofit?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We are nonprofit.
All right.
Yes.
Lynn, you do awesome work.
Well,
Thank you.
so
You're
much.
one of the great resources in our city. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you. Anybody wants a tour?
How many people generally show up for lunch?
4 to 5.
It's really good.
All right.
It is.
And our next, I don't know if they're here, Lana.
Are we going to make a motion and?
Oh, we already.
Who seconded?
Second.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, I thought we did that. Okay, all in favor.
Aye.
All right.
David, you didn't mention that Jen is here.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Jen, welcome. Thanks for coming. Our gold member, Lana, you pronounce it.
I butchered Alice's name, so here we go. This one, Morrison.
And-
I reached out to her several times, I haven't heard anything, but I would still.
She is requesting to join as a gold
Yes.
member. We would accept her.
I guess I'll make a motion that we accept her.
Okay, all in favor?
She's
Yes.
a realtor here. Okay.
Okay. Moving along the next item, downtown Sarasota master plan status update. Jamie and Ken are on the committee, but only one can speak, and sunshine and all that stuff. So Jamie will have the update this month.
So as David mentioned, Ken and I have to be very careful because of sunshine laws. So we discussed the logistics of it before. Out of fairness, 1 month I will speak, 1 month Ken will speak. But if you're looking for the other one to comment on something the other one said, we can't do that. So when one of us is talking, that's it. The other one can't comment. So I just want to get that out there first of all. So Ken will speak to it next month. But yeah, this last meeting, we had an agenda and we were going to go over duties for serving on the ITN, and we were going to pick a committee member. But before that, we had received a letter from several groups. One of the actual letter came from the COBA. They really wanted us to take a look at the last master plan and really have an understanding of where we were, where we went, what worked, what didn't work. And they didn't feel that we really could move forward until we really all understood that. Yes, we received a copy of that originally, all 13 members did, but I think it'd been nice to have a presentation. So that agenda kind of got pushed back. And since then we've, I think it's a coalition of building associates or association. Yeah. Builders, yeah. It was like 7, I want to say it was somewhere in the vicinity of, they include 7,000 people. So we've been getting more and more letters. I think everyone thinks it's really, really important that we truly understand the last master plan. So that's kind of what we focused on, and our group decided that the next meeting, we set the next 2 meetings. I think we're going to dedicate the next meeting to solely having a presentation. I specifically brought up that I would want to know what worked, what didn't work, and what were the legal pitfalls that they ran into before, so we don't run into the same issues. So the next meeting, that's what we're going to cover. And since then, we've received another letter. So also reiterating how important it is that we understood the original plan.
Okay. Next. Oh, yeah.
Are we going to have discussion
Oh.
on the topic?
Oh, sure.
Anybody else want to comment? I have a question.
Who's presenting on this? An update on the prior plan, lessons learned and all that? I mean, that sounds pretty, someone's opinion about the event. I have my opinions, but I want to ask for it.
Since then, we have received some further information sent to us via email. As far as, unfortunately, I don't think Ken can comment, but I don't know exactly who's presenting on that, but that I'm guessing maybe the city, but I don't remember who's exactly presenting on that.
Patrick? So this brings up a question: is what is DSCA's voice on the Downtown Master Plan 2020? What do DSCA members feel was the pros and cons of the last 20 years of a downtown master plan, what worked and what didn't? If asked the question, one off the top that I could say that didn't work was in the definition of setbacks, that between DTC and DTB, they assumed that they're the same, and they're not. DTB is primarily residential. Downtown Bayfront is where most of our condominiums. So if we're representing the condominiums in Sarasota, I would say the majority of people, not necessarily count of buildings, but number of people housed in condos, the majority are in the DTB. And the fact that there's 0 setback in front setback means that there's, unless the developer agrees to give up buildable space, there's no foliage, no trees, no shade in front of the buildings because they're built right to the sidewalk. So the front setback in DTB was of not having a minimum 5 feet or some setback in DTB was a big mistake from the perspective of having seen all the issues come forward in the past 10 years. So that's one question. So is that something that DSCA should gather to question what others think
Okay,
are the?
there is a public comment period at these meetings.
Yes.
So if we came up with something, is it possible for DSCA to ask to comment?
Like Marlon Brown did the last one. I mean, he basically was.
The last two, yeah.
And
Yeah,
again,
he was there for the last two.
You know, okay. Question, this is a question. If we have input, can we distill it into a 3-minute dot point or something? Ask for time on the agenda and deliver it. With that,
All you have to do is sign up. So it's not difficult to, it's not
Correct.
difficult to present. It's just that once we come up with that, I mean, the setback thing's a great example of.
The question is, as a DSCA board, it has to be done procedurally.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So I would suggest that the DSCA zoning subcommittee is the likely one to gather the input, because the downtown master plan primarily is what set the agenda for the zoning. Is one of the key things that comes out of the master plan, and if they're gonna make any changes, I think our zoning is a key part, and then there's other aspects.
Patrick, could you help the zoning committee on this
I think it's a
particular?
good idea.
Yeah, I think it's,
I mean, there were parts to be tracked of the 2000 master plan that were bad.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt to highlight that.
Yeah.
Zero lot lines and all
Okay.
that. Yeah.
because of your planning board experience and all sorts of stuff, can,
Things that we've seen and issues.
Yeah, well, you have longer time frame too, but yeah, that sounds good.
So what would be the action item for that?
Yep.
Zoning code committee via Zoom and gathering?
When's the next meeting?
I mean, what would be the framework?
We have two, and they're back to back. I want to say the Wednesday, May 28th at 5:30, and then we also have another one on Monday, the 2nd.
Which is the one where you're going to be going over the results?
Wednesday, May.
Is that something that we can put together in that period of time? Because that would be the meeting that would be most, I think, most valuable topic of conversation.
okay.
I mean, if you can.
Why would the procedures on this be any different from any other time you take a position? I got a position with my homeless committee. We meet, we bring it to the board and say, board, would you support this? And then the board says yes, no, indifferent, and we'll write a letter, and several of us may go speak in front of the commission. I don't see it being any different from that. The
Okay.
second thing I would like to say is I think very clearly, Jamie and Ken do not represent DSCA on that committee. Absolutely not. In fact, I would be a little concerned if they engaged in the discussion of these items during the board. They might have to recuse themselves.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay, all right, so we got a couple weeks to distill something,
Here, Blaine has an action item.
okay?
To discuss the feedback on action plan 21.
Okay. Next item, the Condo Association survey plans. Bob, what, can you give us an update on where things stand for this biannual or whatever?
Basically putting it together, Patrick, we met a couple days ago about the, obviously we've got a very good database that is probably a little bit, that we need to adjust a little bit. But I think as far as getting to come up with try and use the summer to get the information for the boards, from the boards, but from the building managers. And obviously, if we can push the buttons with the board, the different boards in the building boards. Problem with there's too many boards. But that's something that we need to, try and get those people more involved and get them more involved in looking at the value of the survey, because we want to have a higher participation than we did last time. So that's basically it.
Okay, so you're running with this.
Yeah.
Okay, and our goal is to get the survey.
Oh, we've got the basic survey already. I mean, and I think we've decided that try to keep the same survey together. We've got it already in place. As far as that goes, we can update it
Okay.
there.
But this year we have a difference and we're working on a beer budget. but we don't have a consultant. So when it comes to getting people to complete this, we're
I'm gonna
gonna
be the bird dog versus
yeah,
human.
and then we're gonna have to get resourceful on outreach on this to get participation at hopefully clearly a higher level than last time. So one would hope with everything going on with condo regs, and insurance costs and everything, there should be a heightened level of motivation to participate. Because if you don't participate, you don't get the unabridged version of the results. Okay, moving on. Mhm.
I would like to ask for this meeting where we have member reps present for any commentary on the benefit of the past survey results. We've done the surveys either 2021, 2023, 2023. Has any member rep participated in their condo board making use of that in any way?
Speaking for one of the frequent member attendees. Jim Lample from the Jewel. I come to most of these meetings and I'm one of very few out of the 32 members who show up. That should be a red flag for this board. You have to be thinking, what value do you add so that the condo reps show up? As for Marlon Brown, when he was here and he spoke from what seemed to be a script, there was no real focus on what affects us as condo people. As you know, my position is pretty clear about most of the commission, and former city manager don't really care much about the condos, even though the huge source of the tax revenue and the millions of dollars. We're relegated to second-class citizens when it comes to noise and other issues. The other thing is, as I sit here, I'm always the last one to have the final word before we adjourn for the bar. And a lot of times we have things that we'd like to bring up and add value to the conversation, but because of the protocol, we can't. And by the time the meeting's over, we have to wrap it up and there's no time really to have discussions on things that are on our mind.
Well, that's what I was asking you. On the survey, is there anything we can do in rolling out the survey that would have more participation and then follow?
Well, the thing I mentioned is, I've been in customer service all my life. You're the board, we're sort of the customers or members. Why aren't 20 or 30 members showing up? Where's the value to show up? I show up because I sign up as a commitment. And then I bring back to our condo board and our members any value that I've gotten from these visits. But why don't the other members show up?
Jim, that's what we took at the beginning, right? With the legislative affairs and a different format for the speaker, more of a conversation where it would be opened up to the member reps.
Yeah, but member reps don't get to speak until the very end.
Well, no, with each conference, we're having, after the board speaks on the issue right now is the 2025 association survey, and how can we make the survey more relevant?
I think I filled out the survey, but I don't remember the question.
Well,
okay.
The point is how to get more to participate. Has the survey been used?
Yes.
The results. So
I'm not officially a member rep because of Bob, but if I may, president of the board here at Broadway. I used it extensively. It's very, very useful when you're looking at raising the HOA fee because you can look at your building's amenities and services versus other buildings who are often charging a much higher HOA fee. It's very good to get information on insurance. What would make it useful, I'm afraid I disagree with my husband or whoever agreed the service should stay the same. If you can actually manage, and I will offer to analyze that was a good part of my career, if you can actually add some open-ended questions, such as what are the main issues you are facing? How many people you get to stand for the board? What are the board responsibilities versus the manager? Things like that. Those are the issues you're facing. Just one other comment. Say that this organization is not aware of HD 913 heritage because it's been constantly on my mind, on Alex's mind, on a lot of people we talk to for months now since the legislative session started. So it should, to my mind, be a focus here. It was very worrying. So I think the survey should be a lot more useful. I think parts that are tremendously useful as a reference and as a comparison. But what would be even better is maybe before doing the survey, trying to convene some sort of forum. I mentioned the word earlier, or board members who don't show up. Say, you know, it's summertime, maybe you've got a couple of hours to meet over some drinks. SRQ does this sometimes. They do what they call their VIP socials, and those have been very useful in getting people to discuss the issues that are concerning them, and there are an awful lot of those. So if you could think about, with or without construction, I don't know how it could work.
No.
Okay.
Let me deal with them. If you could arrange some sort of forum, maybe instead of a speaker workshop, actually have board members speaking. It's going to deal with our 98-year-old residents.
Okay. 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 Any?
I don't remember the survey either, but I agree with this gentleman. Really don't let members talk, but decide whether you are providing a service to the members. What are the benefits of membership? What is it you do for me as a board member of my condo that makes me either want to be here or need to be here? Talk about the legislative thing. We have a legislative committee of our own, but anything that comes to law and rules, I want to use an attorney. I don't know why you don't want to use an attorney. As a board member, I don't want to step in. I don't want to ever step in anything. So I tend to speak to the things I know about, seek professional opinions of those areas that are not mine. So I typically don't even stick around to meetings.
I don't think I saw it. Send it to me.
By the time issues have come up, they're gone, and where are we? So it's just something to think about.
If we're taking from associate members, can I just get in on this? The usefulness of the.
Make it quick, Alex. We're behind
So
time-wise.
I think the board here should hear a message. 1, 2, 3, 4 associate members about their meeting. David and Bob and I had a much deeper conversation than I think you got from his comments today. In essence, what I think you're hearing, and this could be part of the survey, is why are these board meetings instead of member meetings? Your board business is important. Your board business is important, but having members, that you got to serve them instead of serving the board. Right? The members here are an actor, I think that should be in the survey. We've got 4. I don't know how many associate members are here. Now 5. So take the message.
We're a regular member.
I'm sorry. Yes, correct. Regular members.
You'll send it to me. I'll read it
Alex,
as soon as
we
this
got
is
the
over.
memo. Okay, so I'm glad we had this conversation. Let us go away and kind of distill some of this so we understand. Chamber of Commerce reciprocal membership circulated with your advance package is a simple motion where DSCA would become a complimentary member of the chamber of us. It's limited to a couple people. It's some of Roger, Barry, and others have on occasion, or Kent, I don't know, been going to the government issues committee. And now I would be invited, for example, and I think Peter was prepared to make a motion that we accept this no-cost reciprocal agreement with the chamber.
I thought that's what you just did. However.
Oh, okay.
That the district board approve a reciprocal membership agreement between the Downtown Sarasota Condominium Association and the Sarasota County Chamber of Commerce with the following item. All standard membership fees will be waived by both organizations, And access to membership benefits will be limited to chamber employees and DSCA board members.
Was that sent ahead in our packet?
Yes.
Well, it's modified. The motion's been modified, I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
So there's need a second.
Yes.
A second.
All in
Peter
favor?
made the
Aye.
motion.
Aye.
Okay, and second was from, thanks.
Okay, I should have asked, is there any discussion? Oh, I mean,
Is this it? Yes, that's it.
yeah, I mean, the neighborhood association's been changed to this. Yeah. Yeah.
Some of the language in the suggested motion was really a more policy and procedure items than they are motion items. So I just reduced it to, made it a little more stealth.
You want to give that to me?
No, I don't share.
Okay, moving on. Everybody okay? Anybody have an issue? Okay. Next thing is, there was a budget town hall meeting last night. Peter and I were 50% of the resident.
We represented all of the residents downtown.
Now, I mean, in all seriousness, the city hosted this town hall where Kelly Strickland provided a overview of the budget process, timeline. Then it was pretty much open to a roundtable discussion with Doug Jeffcoat. I was devastated that only 4 community members showed up. I had personally mentioned this town hall at CCNA last Saturday, kind of saying, hey, folks, if you want to have something to say about the budget, the window to do that is about now. And so, Peter, any?
The only thing I'd like to say beyond that is that I've been involved in budget things in the city for a long time. And I'm always amazed. The competence. If you sat at that meeting and listened to Kelly Strickland do her presentation, it was very educational. It was informative. It made me glad that she's in that position, and probably most of you, unless you were in a meeting like that, wouldn't know who she was. And then to be followed up by the interim city manager to spend his time to engage with us in questions. And he let it go in every direction that you want. Anybody there would take, any one of the 4 of us would take it to. The biggest thing I'm disappointed in is more people didn't see how competent our city staff was last night.
Yeah. So rumor has it, I had some things to say, but to Doug's credit, it must have been half an hour or so of really dialogue with him. So anybody, I don't want to belabor some of the points I made, but it was a good opportunity, a missed opportunity.
Why do you think more people didn't show? Because how was it promoted?
On this, it wasn't promoted. I mean, the city promoted it on their website, but there was no advocacy. I mean, I mentioned CCNA thinking that, boy, we're going to get some participation. And I don't know what to say, Clark. I can't.
906.
Okay. Yeah.
David, isn't that something that Commissioner Jen can speak on when she's here? Budget process. We have a commissioner here. And that's something she can speak to if she has any questions.
Jen, do you have, literally, this is off agenda, but literally, please, 60 seconds.
What do you want me to speak to?
Whether anyone has any questions. We know about the police department's about 50% of our budget, right? What's the total budget?
$305 million. There may or may not be a proposed millage increase this year. we have had 3 consecutive years of rollback and or reduced millage. So when I was elected, millage was higher, 3.2632, I think. Now we're at 3. So we've had 3 consecutive years of rollback. And we're going to have some very serious challenges. We've had $50 million impact from the hurricanes. We have reserves that we lowered from last year to this year. We had about 34 million. We lowered it to 28. I voted against that. And we dipped into that, and we have about 17 left, which we should have more than that going into hurricane season. And FEMA will reimburse us up to 85%, but that takes years to happen. It trickles in. It goes out, but it trickles in. And I concur with David. I've been talking about this for years and years and years and saying, you know, we have people coming all the time to every meeting. Can we have better sidewalks? Can we have better streets? Can we have more code enforcement? Can we have more police doing this and that? The time to tell us that is at budget, right? Not after budget, but at budget. And that was yesterday, and it's going to be this summer. We're going to have a workshop. Please, please tell us how you want us to spend your money. You know, we go to the budget meetings. David's usually the only one there. So please, please, please weigh in and tell us how you want us to spend your money.
Yeah, I was, one of our speakers said the truth about the city's aspiration is not found in its vision, it's found in its budget. So I thought it was a useful thing yesterday, but again, I'm so disappointed. City manager search, oh boy. I guess Monday, there's an additional discussion. It's kind of search processes, if I get it, kind of starting over. So I don't know what to say. But,
Jim gets credit for that.
okay, Jim. City manager search is starting over. Arts and cultural, Ken?
Yes, I have several things. You know, last year, the state did not make any arts grants. And in the meantime, they have changed their process. They've revised their process. They revised their state process for grants, and they've changed the numerical qualifying number from 80% to 95. There are 8 local organizations that have made qualifying this year. They are the Art Center Sarasota, Artist Series Concerts, the Van Wezel, Embracing Our Differences. Wow. Ensemble New SRQ, that's an organization that works on the creation of world-class contemporary music. Florida Studio Theater, Sarasota Orchestra, and Sarasota Opera. And I had mentioned that the counties also changed their process. They did that with the help of the Arts and Cultural Alliance. The Arts and Cultural Alliance is sponsoring a speaker at the Ringling College of Art and Design Town Hall Speaker Series on May 21st. This is very interesting. It's Deborah Rutter, who's the former president of the Kennedy Center. So this should be fascinating. The tickets are $50, and you go onto the Arts and Cultural Alliance website to buy them. Okay, and I think, David, you said you already bought a ticket? Yep. Yeah. Okay. The Purple Ribbon Committee is in a very interesting place at this point. It has already drafted parts of its final report, and they're going, each member is assigned a piece to draft, and they are going over them and finding agreement and making adjustments and edits and changes as they see fit. That will go on, and surprisingly, they may end up with a report by July, which would be wonderful. Nice to see a committee do that. Okay, I think, David, that's it.
Thank you. Associate Events Committee, Jamie, do you have anything? The one is, yeah.
Jamie.
We're about out of time. Yeah, the annual members meeting, we had the chief of police. That went very well, was very well attended. They brought the real-time operations center. Some of us got to tour it. It's pretty cool. Spring workshop went pretty well, I thought. Not quite as well attended as some of our other ones, but still pretty well attended. And then our October workshop, we have a save the date. We don't have a topic yet. Meetings will start in June. That will be on October 16th. That's all I have.
Thank you. Homeless and health and safety, Peter, you had, and City Watch, you had,
Yes,
something.
okay. Quickly, the summary's in the board packet, but just quickly. On March 19th, we had our first public rollout with the MAC Condominium Association, which David and Jamie and me and I don't hope I'm leaving somebody up, Bob Tepperman and several of us made a presentation to residents at the MAC. It was well received. We've had a review of that. There's some things we could do a little bit better and we'll improve. That's what the idea of a pilot is, find out what works and doesn't work. The next association meeting is tentatively scheduled for May 21st at 1350 Main Street. That's going to be a little different because we're presenting to the board itself and any of the residents who attend the board meeting. It'll be a little different from the last one. A couple of things that came up. We want to publicize more of the activities by holding an event or a position at the Saturday Farmers Market, inform other organizations like the DID, Downtown Merchants Association, make the city commission more aware of what we're doing by just doing a 3-minute presentation in citizens talk at the commission meetings. And then promote, the last is we need to promote support for the CW activities and get a budget established with this committee, because several of us on the committee are spending our own personal money to make this work, which we don't mind doing. But I think that to do this right, we're going to need some funds, and we'll probably be going to the Sarasota Police Department Foundation for this, seeing that it was their idea that drove us to do this in the first place. Thank you. For what? Operational funds, like, copying, flyer distribution, ink, vests and T-shirts and patches.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Transportation. It looks like public transportation is finally getting some traction. The Transportation Department is hosting a stakeholders meeting. That's the good news. Whatever they want to update the transportation chapter, and they're talking about a 1.5-year process. So I haven't been, the first meeting is in a couple weeks, but the idea of more public transportation options, Vice Mayor Price seems to be quite interested in a circulator, so as to speak. Other ideas are expansion of demand or iRide 2.0, but it looks like the staff is doing that, and then it seems that the commission has identified public transportation as maybe a very high priority on the strategic initiatives. So stay tuned for more on that. Parking in the Rosemary, staff has been directed to look at some structured parking location options in the Rosemary or around the Rosemary to support Rosemary organic growth, plus potentially for a secondary spot to support Van Wezel SPAC. So that's underway. Zoning code. Peter, do you want to talk about?
Well, obviously, it's going to be a busy couple of weeks coming up in terms of city commission. A few of us have talked to the Sarasota developer to try to get a better outcome than what was first proposed. That's the site's just south of the Boulevard condominium on US 41. I think, are we there? I don't know. I think we came to a better outcome, but we're meeting with 3 city commissioners. This is not formally a DSCA process. We're not asking for board approval. It's just individuals working to try to get more trees, a deeper setback, more attainable housing. What am I missing? Anyways, and then, yeah, there's the Hyatt redevelopment is coming. I think that's done. That's now done, although what's going to happen is, okay, so they moved the driveway, that got accepted. One of the developers who's adjacent to this, appealed. That didn't go well for them, but they're going to appeal the administrative approval of the site plan. So that'll come. I don't, we are following it. As a board though, as the zoning committee, we're not asking for board approval on that too. We're just, and then the Obsidian, that is coming up, and Miramar is coming up.
So I guess I have a philosophical and big picture question. These projects are coming every 5 days. There's another one, Ken, that I passed along down by you. I think DSCA shouldn't and can't get involved in some of these, but as a general comment, an advocacy for trees, and a more, I know it's subjective, within the zoning, within the developer doing things voluntarily, in many cases, if it's administratively approved. But this is kind of tricky. I spend a lot of time and energy, spreadsheets on this. And so I don't want to step out of a lane, but I think we're genuinely trying to do whatever the right thing is and trying positively. Is there anybody on the board that kind of observes this from afar that has a comment or a concern?
Well, David, I've always said that we would be most effective if we worked on modifying the code in those areas where we see problems. Because if you go project by project, you'll go crazy trying to do it, because you keep doing the same thing over and over again. You're not getting anywhere. You need to work on the code. So I think as a matter of policy, the organization, for the board and the organization, would be to not try and take a position on every single project, but to use those projects as teaching tools for what needs to be changed in the zoning code.
Well, and that's a very good point. And I think sorry.
Now I've forgotten what I was going to say. Go ahead.
Well, no, I agree with that, but we have learned, and one of the things that I think needs to be changed is the attainable housing as it relates to density bonus program. We by far in the state of Florida give far more to the developers in terms of density benefits and achieve some of the lowest amount of attainable housing. So it's just totally off kilter. And one of the things that we're doing with this one development is that we think we've moved attainable housing from 30 units to 40 units. So I think if people individually want to do work, which we have, I think that's a good thing to get a better streetscape, a better attainable housing outcome, more trees, more pedestrian zone.
I wasn't arguing against
Okay.
that.
Well, we also do want to change, the zoning committee also wants to change some of the rules.
Right.
So,
Go ahead.
while not appropriate, you said for DSCA taking positions on each site. But when there are situations at each site plan that aggregate to showing repeated variations from what was expected to come out of the code. And I agree, it should be in the code. But what we're finding is the staff makes choices that are, quote, justified in the code, but do not support the comp plan and the intent of the code. An example is that 2 or 3 developments that we're just now talking about, where and the Boulevard of the Arts is different because there the streetscape is a city managed project. The changes in the right-of-way, trees and medians were not initiated by the developer. And so it's not a developer issue, but you have city staff saying, oh, it's okay for the developer to remove all the trees, 100% of the trees in the right-of-way, as well as 100% on their private property, and then has no say-so in putting in place the required mitigation trees, where it says, take out a 32-inch, you put in 3 7-inch trees. And the city staff says, oh, no, pay into the fund and put in a 2-inch sapling. That is how city staff is implementing the zoning code. And it's going against the comp plan to provide walkable, comfortable, safe walking. And so I think it's appropriate to evaluate each site plan that comes forward and finding these anomalies and raising visibility. And when there's an accumulation, more than just one.
How is that different than what I just said? That's not any different.
Except the point was, each site plan has issues that should be pushed back on.
You need to take a position on each
Right.
site plan and make a presentation to the planning board or the city commission.
Or just
That's what
where there are accumulation of issues that keep occurring. So right now, there are site plans that.
Exactly what I was talking about.
Well, we're in agreement. Thank you.
One thing that as far as on the zoning issues on the big picture thing, we have an issue. I mean, we're obviously very concerned about, the fact that there's affordable housing being a part of a mix. But I think one thing that we're missing in this whole thing, especially with all of these extremely high dollar developments that are going up,
walk in the
they're all
morning.
3,000 and 4,000 square feet. The developers are building
have
those because
Pito
that's what's selling.
They-
And what it does
not
do,
water.
it's when you're talking about $1,000, $1,200 a square foot. What we don't have in the city, and our building's a great example of one of the few places where there is, we don't have, I would say not affordable, but attainable housing.
Are you gonna go
If you
4:30
look
again?
at, we don't have $1 million. I mean, $1 million isn't there, but that's something that I think when we start giving these a part of the code where it's, all their buildings, 4,000 square foot units in these buildings, we need some 1,000 square foot units, or we're just going to kick all of the urban professionals or the young professionals to Tampa. They're not going to stay here because there's no place for them to move and do a downtown.
We agree, and we worked on that. Okay, we're running over, folks. I'm sorry. I will say one thing. There aren't enough hours in the day to work on everything we talked about. If we had a board or a staff, or I need 2 interns, but we've got to, there's so much we can do, and I want to, we're working at this pretty hard. So if some of us are letting down, it's a problem. So I hear what you're saying, Patrick. Bay Park Conservancy, I hope you have no update.
I have no updates.
Okay.
Other than they've started the project along 41.
Okay. CCNA, the DRC process ad hoc committee kicked off. I went to a meeting a few weeks ago. A subsequent meeting is occurring. Patrick M. and I have talked about transitioning from me on that committee to him. He was out of town for the first meeting, and we're trying to work on that. So I am less, there's a more of participatory thing with other board members, and that meeting will be coming up, and Patrick and I are working on that. As far as the Rosemary Association goes, there's a big party on Saturday. Free burgers and stuff, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Platinum Associates. Tony, you have,
Promise to be very, very quick. I look in David's eye. Hi, I'm Tony Britt. I'm the Vice Commodore of the Berkey Yacht Club, here with Dee Dee Moore, who's our marketing chair and soon-to-be board member. I'm the lucky guy who's going to be Commodore in about a month and a half, which is an exciting time in my life, I guess. Couple things. You've read the papers. I'm sure we've taken a pause on our construction. The last couple of days, things have progressed really, really nicely, and our costing estimates and everything else are converging, coupled with our expectations. We should actually, assuming a positive outcome from the Planning Commission in May and the City Commissioners in July, we could be breaking ground this fall. So, which is great news in the last little while. And every day there's a little bit more clarity for us, which is encouraging. I'd also encourage people, if you're interested, we've just released a fabulous summer trial program. There's some brochures on the table. It is $1,000 for full, absolute inclusive use of our club. If you're a tennis player, it's a heck of a deal. Between now and at the very least would be the end of July. Realistically, it'll probably take you to the end of September. So if you're interested, please grab a flyer. If anyone as a condo rep, if any of your condo members are interested, it's a great way to give us a try, and it's incredibly reasonable to do so. So thanks again.
and here we go. Flyer, come on, Steve.
I feel like a veteran here. I think I've been coming to these meetings for about 3 years now. Thank you again. Hotwire is now officially the fastest growing high-speed internet and television provider in Sarasota County. And we are growing tremendously on Longboat Key here in downtown Sarasota. We are very shortly going to be announcing the establishment of a senior living division. We are recognizing the growing importance of senior living, whether it's assisted living or independent living or memory care, and the facilities that are going up and the specific needs that they need regarding internet and television services. So we're devising products and services specifically for that market. We're very excited about that. And I know you're running over, so I won't take up any more of your time.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Steve. Comments by any member reps, and I'm Jim. I hope you've.
I yield to whatever.
Okay.
whatever
Okay. Our next board meeting will be June 4th, and Lucia Panica is going to be our guest speaker. And I think, given everything that's going on with development services, I think that'll be an interesting conversation, I hope.
I have a comment. Will that be a conversation, or will it be more like Marvin Brown?
Let's make it a conversation. Let's
prepare her for that.
Absolutely. So it's a conversation with Lucia Panica, with her maybe talking for 10 minutes or so, and then we open it up. Let's see how that goes.
So we will have a series of questions to submit to DRC page.
Good. Okay. And just heads up, I'm not here in July. Jamie, you'll be taking it away. And unless there's anything else, let's time for a glass of wine. Thanks, everybody.
Did we vote on whether you could go away?